The Walking Dead Season 3 is a real interesting season. The tonal change in the beginning compared to Season 2 is huge. I kind of forgot how big of a deal it was, how the tone of the show really changed from the end of Season 2 to the beginning of Season 3, because we pick up with the group. It's been 7, 8 months since last time we've seen them, and they've gone through the ringer at this point. And obviously, you see how kind of broken they are, how stressed they are, how tired they are. And then, of course, we see a super pregnant Lori. That's kind of how we know how much time has passed. And also, Andrea says, I think when she's captured by the, or not captured, when she's taken in by the governor and his folks, Andrea says that they've been out on the road for like, I think 7.5 months, 8 months, something along those lines. But let's get into the true rewatch review of The Walking Dead Season 3. So it is a different season, like I said. Tonal changes are out the gazoo, and we see a lot of our characters grow in a lot of different ways. Like Carl actually becomes cool in Season 3, and then ever since Season 3 ends, they kind of buff his character back to being lame. But I honestly think Season 3 Carl is peak Carl. Really is, and that's sad. That's real sad. But this is also when we see a lot of our other characters become really cool. We see Rick kind of go off the hinge when Lori dies. We see Herschel become the character that we all know and love. And then everyone kind of steps up in the group in one way or another. Like I said in the previous two videos, I don't go into obvious detail and story arcs and stuff on these rewatch reviews. I more get into dialogue and Easter eggs and stuff that I really pick up on the second viewing that you may have not caught on the first time watching. Because we all know how the story ends up. If you're watching this, you know how the story goes. You know all the big points at this point because, I mean, Season 3 has been out for 6, 7 years. So we're going to talk about things that I caught that were really interesting and that lead into other storylines or things that they could have done and so on and so forth. So to begin, I think when the season opens and they show Rick, he should have had a crazy Rick beard at this point. Because they're out on the road for 7, 8 months. It's not like he's worried about keeping his beard all manicured. They should have made him grow out his beard for the beginning of the season, just like how he does in Season 5. I think it would have been cool. And then he could have shaved it shortly after when they get to the prison or whatever. But I think that would have been pretty cool to see in the very beginning, because it'd been like, oh my gosh, these people have been through the ringer, you know, and Rick's got a big old beard. And he looks kind of crazy. I think that would have been kind of cool to see. Now I know it's a show and stuff changes. Like T-Dog's still able to shave his head. But I can let that one go because it just takes a little bit of water and a razor and you can pretty much keep your head shaved. So I get that one. But, you know, beards and stuff, like you kind of have to look at yourself in one way or another. Heads, you can kind of just, you kind of know, I would assume, you know, and that's just how you do it. So some interesting dialogue that I picked up in the first episode was when Daryl and Carol are on top of the turnover bus after they took over the prison. Carol kind of comes up and talks to Daryl. And she gives Rick props, you know, saying that Rick's done something that Shane never could have, you know, gotten us this far. And, you know, that's coming as a complete 180 from how she felt about Rick at the end of Season 2. So that was really kind of cool to see. And also, you hear Daryl say, oh, yeah, little Shane over there's got a big old appetite, doesn't he? I thought that was pretty funny because, I mean, even Daryl knows that it's Shane's kid. And I just thought that was pretty funny. And by episode 3, we have Andrea and Michonne. And, you know, I really like Andrea. I really do. I know people hate on her character in the show a lot, but I'll defend her. But man, was she just so naive until the very end. It is just so annoying. It's like, lady, realize where you're at. Realize the world you're in. Michonne does. That's why she's still kicking. It just, all of it is just so annoying. How they wrote her character to be so naive and kind of just stupid drives me crazy still to this day. Because she is so cool at the end of Season 2. And then to the point, through all of Season 3, she's just kind of, like she can't make up her damn mind. And it's so annoying seeing a strong character like that just be so confused all the time. Instead of just making up her mind and doing the right thing, like going back with the prison and being with her people, her true people. I get that she wanted to save everyone and thinks that's how the world's going to work. But at this point, she should know the world ain't like how it was before. And she needed to be with her people, you know, not crazy psychopaths like the governor. Yeah, Rick can be a little unstable sometimes, but he's not going to go shoot 60, 40 of his own people, whatever it was, 20 of his own people. That's not going to happen. just the Andrea being so naive and trying to have everyone get along, it's just so annoying because it's just not going to happen. And she needed to realize that sooner. It was just real annoying. Also, episode 3 is the first Walking Dead episode where Rick is not featured at all. I guess that was kind of the beginning of the end. I thought that was an interesting little tidbit because until this point, we've never had an episode without Rick. And then episode 3 of season 3, we have no Rick. And from here on out, in season 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, definitely 9, there's episodes without Rick and main characters, which I don't usually care for those episodes. I really don't, especially when you're watching the show week to week. It is super frustrating because you tune in to watch the show and you're like, all right, time to see Daryl, Michonne, Rick, Carol, whoever. And then you see a whole episode of Morgan and you're like, woo, oh boy. Cool. I don't care for those episodes, but hey, what are you going to do? I guess you can complain about them like I am. Also, the few times they show the governor looking at his old family picture of his wife and his daughter, his wife in the picture is actually one of the producers of the show. I believe her name is Denise M. Huth, something like that. It's in that ballpark. I'm sure if you just see a picture of her, maybe I'll throw a picture up on screen here, you'll know who I'm talking about if you watch The Talking Dead or watch behind the scenes stuff of The Walking Dead. Also, when Michonne and Andrea are in Woodbury, they start talking about leaving, which they should have done right from the get-go, but we all know how that works out. Andrea dies. Michonne talks about going to the coast, and I thought that was kind of an interesting little maybe pirate Michonne Easter egg, because I don't know at this point in the show where they were at in the comics. I forget if already All Out War was done. Maybe it was a little Easter egg for that. I thought that was pretty interesting. Also, when the governor tells Andrea, oh, it's just me and my daughter, against the world or whatever that survived, and Andrea was just like, cool, she's just there and she's just under wanderlust of the governor. But she doesn't stop to think for a second, hey, I've been around for a few days now. Why haven't I seen his daughter anywhere? Because you'd think if a person has a kid, you at least see him running around somewhere. You'd think, right? And she doesn't. And it's just kind of weird how she never puts that together. So naive in season 3. It's just bonkers. Drives me crazy. Oh man, getting to, I believe, episode 4, when Lori gives the whole speech to Carl about how he's going to beat this world when Lori's about to die, giving birth. Man, is that so sad and depressing for so many reasons. Lori is a very annoying character, but how she died was super sad, and how she was eaten by that walker fully was just horrible, and it's still one of the more sadder deaths ever in this show. And then the whole speech with Carl and how Carl dies, it's just super depressing. It's just so sad to watch now. It was sad back then, but especially now with how Carl ends up dying in the most stupid way ever, but we'll talk about that in season 8. We'll get to that later. Another thing I picked up on, the first Walker Pit fight between Merle and Martinez. Merle actually has his biker vest on. That is the last time you see Merle in the biker vest, but I thought that was a pretty cool thing. I know he had it on when he cut off his hand and left Atlanta, but, he's kept it this whole time, and they actually show him wearing it one last time during that fight because he wasn't able to grab it when they left Woodbury or anything like that. But I noticed that, and I thought that was a cool little thing that I didn't even pay attention to, 6 years ago when I was watching this episode before. So I thought that was pretty neat. Another thing that I didn't pick up on years ago when I watched this was when Rick is going crazy and talking on the phone, the person he's talking to, which he actually talks to, I believe, Jackie, Jim, and Amy, and then Lori. When he's talking to, I believe, Jim on the phone when he's hallucinating it, he asks how many people have he killed, and I think it's a nod to season 4 when Rick has the questions, how many walkers have you killed? How many people have you killed? Why? I think that inspires Rick to have those questions because he's heard it from himself, but not really himself, but really himself. One of those deals, I think it just kind of seeded into his brain. And it was just a little interesting thing that I picked up on. You also see Rick's sheriff bag for the final time in the governor's house because I think Andrea had it when she left the farm. And then obviously the governor takes Andrea's stuff. So the final time you see it is actually in the governor's place. But when Rick, Michonne, and Carl go to Morgan's and they take all of his guns, they actually have another sheriff bag there that I believe it was one of Rick's from his sheriff's office. So technically, the sheriff bag does live on at least a little bit longer through season 3, but I don't think we ever see it again in season 4 or 5 or anything like that. So that is the end of the sheriff bag. It's the stupid things that us fans like is like the damn sheriff bags or Glenn's hat or whatever. It's just one of those small details that we always kind of pick up on. But I think We don't ever see Rick's again, but we see a version of it at least a little bit later in season 3. I also found it super funny because I didn't remember this because I just remember Carl doing it. But when Michonne ends up at the prison and she has a baby formula and Carl, takes the initiative and saves Michonne, starts shooting walkers and stuff. But before that, Rick is actually the first person Michonne sees and vice versa. And I was like, haha, setting up the little love right there. That's pretty cool. You don't pick up on that years ago because you don't know that they're going to become, the power couple of the apocalypse. Also, I kind of picked up on too, getting back to the governor, I think the only reason he liked Andrea is because she looked like his former wife. He's just a crazy dude. He really is. I still think it's so sad when Rick kind of goes crazy when Tyrese and Sasha are at the prison. And it's like, oh no, man, don't do that to them. Like they're good people. Don't do that. And every time I watch it, it just kills me because I'm like, oh, why can't they just stay? Because we all know how this is going to end. Can they just stay here? They're good folk. Just leave them. Just leave them. The other two dudes are kind of weird, but, like Tyrese and Sasha are good folks. Just keep them, man. Just keep them. But no, doesn't work that way. On the attack on Woodbury, I still love, I know everyone knows about this, but I got to bring it up. I still love how Rick sees Shane, and that's the reason Oscar dies. Which, honestly, Oscar got the short end of the stick in this show. I really liked Oscar, but I still love how Rick is kind of going bonkers, and he sees Shane, and it's just, oh, man, that's so cool. I love that moment. Now, when they get back to the prison with Merle and Daryl, I know there's a little bit in between, but they still end up back at the prison. I totally didn't pick up on this, years ago. I don't remember. So when Rick is discussing this with Glenn and Daryl and Herschel and some other people, Glenn totally throws it in Rick's face, because Glenn doesn't want Merle there sleeping next to him. He's like, would you want Shane sleeping next to you after he tried to kill you? I was like, oh, snap. Oh, shots fired. Boom, boom. I thought that was pretty good. I thought that was pretty funny. I didn't remember that at all from years ago. Also, when Carol tells Andrea to go kill the governor, give him the best night of his life, sleep with him, and then slit his throat. Honestly, love Carol. She knows how to get stuff done, obviously. But by Andrea not doing that, so many lives are lost because of that. Andrea dies, Milton dies, countless Woodbury people die, Herschel dies. How many other people die? Just a lot of people die because Andrea just can't kill the governor and then dip out. She could have just done that right then and there. So many people will still be alive today. Hell, even Merle will probably still be alive. Well, maybe, but at least at that point he would have been. Also, in the episode Clear with Morgan, he said Carl would die when he's talking to Rick. Now, obviously, you don't really have to believe that in season 3, but now looking back at it, that is some serious foreshadowing. Even though Morgan should have had Carl's death in season 8, but we're not going to talk about that right now. I also found it kind of ironic that Carl and Michonne went to go find the last family picture of Rick, Lori, and Carl, but Michonne ends up getting the picture after Carl drops it. And it kind of comes full circle because, Michonne is Judith's mom, and it's just kind of funny how all that kind of pans out. How Judith is really Michonne's daughter now, and Michonne adopted her at a very young age, and it's just kind of funny how that kind of came full circle. Also, I picked up on this, even though I've read up on this and I've seen other people talk about it, it's no way foreshadowing the whispers at this point, but you hear Morgan say, I see people wearing dead people's faces. He's just going crazy at this point. Now, I think it could be a possible nod to the whispers, not in the show, but maybe that's where Kirkman wanted to go in the comics at that point. Because I don't think it was at the Whispers arc at that point. There's no way. But, maybe something like a nod to the future. It was definitely not foreshadowing for the Whispers in the show at all at that time. It was just one of those weird Morgan crazy things that he says. Also, in episode 13 is when Daryl uses his new crossbow that Michonne picked up for him at Morgan's place. I thought that was a nice little thing to know because, we all know that he's used, I think, 4 different crossbows since the show started. But I just didn't know the exact episode that he kind of transferred over. So, episode 13 of season 3 is when he gets his second crossbow. Also, it's still so frustrating getting back to Andrea when Rick and the governor meet and they all split up and, go and leave. Andrea doesn't just leave with our people. Even after the whole talk with Herschel, how Herschel's like, you need to come back with us, your family. But once you make that decision, it's final. You're one of us. You're with us. She should have just left. But no. No. She can't just make it simple, can she? Another thing that never caught my ear before was Daryl actually called Rick family. It was in This Sorrowful Life episode, and he actually called Rick family. And I never picked up on that before. He may have been referencing like your family, but he says your family too. So I'm gonna just say that Daryl called Rick family, because Rick has like a weird look on his face like, did he really just say that? And, you know, that's obviously leads to Daryl finding Merle a little bit later, which is a super sad. Another thing too, when Merle is rolling through with all the walkers and stuff when he's, you know, about to die, you actually see the rims on his car change. Now, I picked up on this. I remember seeing this back when I watched the show live, you know, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever the hell it was. But you actually see his rims change. He goes from the big aftermarket rims, and then one quick scene, you see him as more of like a stock rim to the car. And then it goes back to the big aftermarket rims. I thought it was pretty funny. Okay, to finish this thing out, we have to talk about how frustrating it was that Andrea did not live in this episode. Honestly, is because Glenn Mazzara thought it was cool the last second to kill her, which I don't agree with that at all. It was a horrible decision to kill Andrea at this point. It's always bothered me how long she took to undo her handcuffs. It felt like she sat there for an hour talking to Milton instead of just grabbing the pliers, cutting the damn handcuffs off, and then going free. But no, she has to make it a last second call, and then she's free. Milton is like 3 or 4 steps away from her as a walker, and she can't defend herself. Are you freaking kidding me? That's just horrible. Talk about so annoying. I mean, she was free, okay? He was 2 to 4 steps away, somewhere in that ballpark. Even if he was lunging at her, she had a pair of pliers, and it's Andrea. At this point, she has shown that she can pretty much protect herself in any circumstances. And she has a pair of pliers that can just beat his head in, okay? But no, she can't defend herself from that. Are you kidding me? And she dies off screen. I mean, come on. Now, it's not as bad as them killing Carl and how they did that. But damn, it is just a horrible, horrible, horribly written death to a main character on the show. I know that Andrea in the show is different than in the comic. And I don't think Andrea could have ever been with Rick in the show like how she was in the comic, just due to the fact that she slept with the governor and Shane. You know what? Who cares? You know, like, I don't need the Rick and Andrea thing in the show. I love the Rick and Michonne thing. But Andrea shouldn't have died at this point. She should have at least lived on, I don't know, at least a few more seasons and died in another way. You could have had her be with someone else. I don't even care if she has a love interest at all. But her character is way too adapted to the world and way too cool to die at that point. It was just horrible. She was way too cool of a character to take out at that point. And I know everyone is frustrated with her at that point, and everyone kind of wanted her to die. I know a lot of people didn't like her character on the show, but I did. I will forever defend Andrea. She's always been one of my top early favorite characters, especially at the end of season 2. Now, end of season 2, Andrea is super cool, and there's parts of season 2 Andrea that comes out in season 3. But overall, how they wrote her and how they made her so naive and just kind of just influenced by the governor over and over and over and over was very, very frustrating and just stupid. But this is the hand we've been dealt. It is just super frustrating to see a character like that get taken out. Still to this day, it still bothers me. It still bothers me so much, but hey, what are you going to do? It's a show, right? I mean, they killed Carl. So whatever, right? All right, this video has been taking forever. I've almost been recording for 30 minutes. So I got to wrap it up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Comment down below. How much do you like season 3 of The Walking Dead? Love it? Like it? Just meh? Let me know down below. It's a really good season. I just don't like certain aspects of it. It's not my favorite season by any means. But there are certain moments of season 3 that are absolutely awesome. But then there's also other certain moments of season 3 that I just want to just jump off a roof because it just drives me crazy. But overall, it's a really solid season. But with all that said, let me know your thoughts down below. And while you're down there, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. And until next time, guys, everyone have a great day.